Zimbabwe cash crisis worse. About Venezuela once again. Systemic important banks. They removed the 1,000 thing on there called monetary awareness. Hey there, hope all is well. Back at you today with some more RTD News updates. And today's title, Bitcoin is big, but the Fedcoin is bigger. I want to share with you an op-ed piece by a college professor on how he thinks that the Fed needs to begin looking into even more the idea of creating a cryptocurrency for our national currency. And so as always, you know, when you hear stories like this, it kind of tells you that there's already some things behind the scenes that's taking place, and he's just bringing it more so to the light for the public to begin taking notice of it. But yet, by the time the stories like this hit the mainstream news, there's already things in the making. So as always, I want to share with you my thoughts on this, as well as share with you some commentary of another gentleman by the name of Michael Snyder, and then also real briefly share with you the most recent thoughts on the whole Bitcoin cryptocurrency blockchain technology by the incoming Federal Reserve Chairman, Mr. Jerome Powell. Take a look at this.
Assuming that this continues, and talking about that bubble, and the size of and the growth of the use of these cryptocurrencies, if that continues to grow, to what extent will that affect your ability to affect results from your typical monetary policy options that you typically have as a central bank?
You know, in the long run, cryptocurrencies of that nature could matter. They don't really matter today. They're just not big enough. There isn't anywhere near close to enough volume for it to matter for us.
Well, that was the problem with the dot-com bubble, too, on a different level, was there were so few entities and there was so much money interested in chasing it, and that's what's happening right now in the Bitcoin area. But the growth of that area was much faster than anybody thought at that time, too, in the late 90s.
Yes, there's no question the valuations have really gone up quite a lot in the last year or so. I don't have a view on the appropriate level of the valuation, of course, but again, from our standpoint, cryptocurrencies are something we monitor very carefully. We actually look at blockchain as something that may have significant applications in the wholesale payments part of the economy, something we pay close attention to.
So you're watching what Alibaba is doing in Asia today relative to blockchain technology.
We are watching all of those technologies. It's something we have to do, I think, and something that's actually kind of enjoyable and interesting to do.
So there you have an idea of what is currently underway as far as what we're being told by the pending or the incoming Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. But as always, there's more to the story, but just the idea that it's not of concern, but it's something they're taking a look into, lets me know that there's already something in the works, if not already finished, waiting to be implemented into our monetary system already, in case there's a need for some type of restructuring or readjusting or some new monetary system that needs to be rolled out immediately. And as always, before I dive into today's articles, I want to encourage you to click the subscribe button for more RTD News updates, live talks, as well as interviews. And if you're new to RTD, I want to encourage you to visit the RTD University page, where I put together all my prior interviews, everything dealing with the economy, the monetary system, precious metals, you name it. And so it helps you get a better idea of what it means to rethink the dollar and why the days ahead the dollar will be changing, as this video will lead you to believe, but the whole idea of a Fedcoin and plus whatever else may be come out in the days ahead. So let's dive into today's article. So the very first one from the Washington Post came out this week, and it's called Bitcoin is big, but Fedcoin is bigger. Just to give you an idea what's on the surface, it's from Campbell R. Harvey, a finance professor at Duke University, the School of Business. And so it kind of starts off just giving some of the highlights of what Bitcoin has done over the last couple of weeks or months rather, and how it's went up 2,000% in just this past year alone. And I highlighted a couple of things I want to point out. And it says, indeed, the technology underlying Bitcoin could fundamentally change the way we think of money. And then it talks about Sweden, how Sweden has pretty much gone into a completely cashless society because most of the people there don't really use it, cash in regards. And so it says Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are based on a complicated technology known as a blockchain, which acts as a digital ledger of transactions completed with the currency. It's somewhat similar to the serial number that you can find on your current dollar bill, but actually it means something because it makes Bitcoin nearly impossible to counterfeit. So he kind of gets into listing some of the benefits. The idea that these individual numbers on serial numbers on paper can now be considered blockchain based, and which makes it impossible to counterfeit. It says the exploding value of Bitcoin has many observers predicting the launch of the US-backed digital cryptocurrency known as Fedcoin. And there are many reasons why beyond fighting counterfeiting to switch to a digital dollar. And the thing is, the dollar is predominantly digital as of right now, brought into existence through the banking system when there's loans and things taken out in the form of fractional reserve lending. But obviously he doesn't want to mention that there. So it goes on and talks about, the idea of $100 bills or $50 bills, who really uses them. Then he gets into why. And then he talks about the idea that it's primarily used for crime and things like that. And people want to hoard cash, as it says here. And so it talks about when they recently captured El Chapo, how he had $200 million, most notably in $100 bills. So he's comparing the idea of people holding cash nowadays as some form of crime, even when it's lawfully and legally yours for the most part. It says cash has distinct advantages of being anonymous. You can put cash under your mattress or in a vault and no one knows what about it except you. A national cryptocurrency will make it far more difficult for criminals to hoard money because all transactions will be recorded in a government ledger. So the idea that hoarding cash and the idea that if you hoard cash is, some type of criminal based idea or entity, lets you know that the whole idea, his whole agenda is to downplay and to demonize the idea of holding physical cash as if you shouldn't do it, according to the way it's written. There's another reason for governments to like the idea of a cryptocurrency, national cryptocurrency. It says strengthening the power of monetary policy to help manage the economy. Currently, interesting. The Federal Reserve lowers interest rates is one reason why, because right now it's been negative rates or near negative for the last 10 years. He's kind of saying that when we need to go negative, it won't be good for the economy because people can actually hold on to cash, which will not help our central bank calm things down or help correct things, which the idea that he's saying that even though it could be a bad policy, they still should have the ability to go negative, which would mean that currency, cash, would need to be removed in order to do so. So national cryptocurrency would help the Federal Reserve out. And it says, with the national currency whose supply is controlled by the central bank, rates can be negative. So he's basically saying that we might need to go negative, but yet we can't go as of now because there's paper out there. So people will just hold on to paper as opposed to letting the banks rob them of having their digital ledgers in a banking system. It says, word about deflation? It says no longer. The idea that the central bank can now do what Milton Friedman calls helicopter money. They can just inject with a click $1,000 into every person's wallet. Fedcoin, by contrast, would be decentralized to various Federal Reserve banks. So the idea that we have 12 banks and that all banks would be intertwined. And so it said it's decentralized when ideally the Federal Reserve Bank in and of itself is a central bank. So it would not be decentralized. If the Federal Reserve does adopt its cryptocurrency someday, it will become a major and far less volatile competitor to Bitcoin and other digital currencies. As we increasingly would move toward a cashless society, the idea of central banks taking advantage of cryptocurrency becomes far more plausible. So here we have a PhD economist who is pretty much pro Fedcoin, pro national cryptocurrency, as he's saying, and he all ties it to the idea that holding cash nowadays is a criminal act and citizens shouldn't have the right to hold cash because it doesn't help our banking system when we need to go negative. So that's kind of how this is ultimately playing out. Next one here, this is from Michael Snyder, his follow-up rather to this whole article. Some of the things he pointed out was the one thing that could derail the cryptocurrency revolution faster than anything else will be the interference by a national government or global central banks. So he calls it a cryptocurrency revolution. That's what is currently underway. Professor Harvey, the gentleman who wrote that piece, goes on to explain that it's only a matter of time before paper money is phased out and that some version of a Fedcoin is inevitable. So he's already understanding the idea that paper will disappear pretty soon, but they need something to replace it. So blockchain, a digital national currency, is in the making, if not already finished. Here's another thing. It says, and that day may be closer than you think. In fact, the U.S. government has already invested millions into cryptocurrency research. It says, to add fuel to the fire, U.S. government has been rigorously studying Bitcoin for about 2 years now, and instead of fighting Bitcoin, the Fed seems poised to wipe out the U.S. dollar by creating their own digital currency. The National Science Foundation, U.S. government agency that supports and funds research, has awarded $3 million to the universities, U.S. universities, for wide-range crypto research. It says overall, other global central banks are doing their own research, and the Bank of International Settlements says that all central banks may eventually need their own cryptocurrencies. This is going to be a critical phase for the cryptocurrency revolution because the people of the world are going to have to make it exceedingly clear that they do not want central bank cryptocurrencies. As an existing fiat currency fails, we want there to be more independent cryptocurrencies that people can use as alternatives. It says this is a revolution that has the potential to be completely change the global financial system, but he has a feeling that the global central banks will never let this go that far. So that's kind of what's happening as far as the whole idea that the Fedcoin by a college professor is being positioned and promoted as being a viable option for a national currency when the dollar fails, or when there's need to remove the Federal Reserve note from the hands of you and I, because of the idea that central banks may not be able to go negative and make it an effective policy, because people will just opt out of having their digital ledgers in the form of their current bank statements. When you log into your phone or log into your computer, you see digits. That's actually the digital transactions of money that's not really in existence other than on the banking system's computer, and people would want to extract that into a form of paper, and that would be dangerous for monetary policy. So here we have a guy that's wanting to basically put a bug out in your ear and my ear, the idea that a Fed coin or some other name for a digital national currency is what would be needed if we, went into some type of recession, depression, or monetary reset or monetary restructuring. And so the option of having a digital national currency is what will be needed. And so once again, it plays into the whole idea of rethinking a dollar, because a dollar is already being reconstructed to be something in the form of a solely digital. So that means they'll remove paper. They'll also remove the conventional means of fractional reserve digits that are in your bank account right now, and eventually just have it in some form of blockchain format that is centralized through the Central Bank of the United States of America, which is the Federal Reserve Bank. So the Fed coin, an idea of what a Fed coin would look like. And then we have the current incoming federal chairman, Jerome Powell, sharing his thoughts on why the blockchain is important and why they're looking into it. And then we have college professors out here basically letting us know that it's something that will be needed and something that is probably already in the works. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on what this whole Fed coin story is about. Do you think the Fed coin is already a signed, sealed, delivered deal, just waiting to be implemented or rolled out when need be? Or do we have another year or two before this really jumps off and becomes more mainstream news, along with the cashless society push, which ties into this whole digital national currency conversation as well? So love to hear your thoughts. And as always, I think our family and friends need to hear this, because a lot of people are not aware of the whole idea that the dollar is being restructured right before our eyes, and the idea of rethinking a dollar might be more important now in the days ahead than ever before. So look forward to bringing you more news and updates. Enjoy your day. Thanks.